there, and welcome back. If you've been with us for our explainers on glycolysis and the TCA cycle, you know we've taken a glucose molecule and broken it down, collecting a whole bunch of high-energy molecules along the way. Well, now we're at the final chapter, oxidative phosphorylation. This is where we finally get to cash in all that hard work for some serious cellular energy. Okay, let's get right into it. So after all that work, we're left with these two molecules, NADH and FADH₂. They are absolutely loaded with high-energy electrons. But here's the thing, they aren't the currency our cells can actually spend. So the huge question is, how do we turn this potential energy into the cold, hard cash of ATP? Just take a look at this breakdown. So far, we've only made a tiny amount of ATP directly. Almost all the energy from that original glucose molecule is still locked away inside these electron carriers. You can think of them like winning lottery tickets. Now it's finally time to go to the bank and claim our prize.
And that bank, it's called the Electron Transport Chain, or the ETC for short. This is where all the action happens. And it's set up in a very specific location, the inner membrane of the mitochondria, the powerhouse of the cell. And here is that exact roadmap. What you're looking at is a lineup of 4 major protein complexes, just labeled 1 through 4. Their whole job is to play a high-stakes game of hot potato, passing these high-energy electrons from one to the next in a super precise sequence. So let's meet our key players, shall we? You can think of complex I and 2 as the on-ramps to this electron superhighway. Complex 3 is kind of like a crucial interchange, and complex 4 is the final exit. Each one is an incredible piece of molecular machinery built for one thing, handling these electrons.
Now, this is really interesting and super important. They don't both enter at the same place. NAD drops its electrons off right at the beginning, at complex I. But FADH₂, it actually skips that first step and enters at complex 2. Now, that might seem like a small detail, but because it's entering at a lower energy point, it's ultimately going to generate less ATP. Keep that in mind. Okay, so as these electrons are passed down the chain, they're releasing little bursts of energy. But what does the cell do with that energy? It doesn't make ATP right away. No, it does something way more clever. It builds a gradient. This diagram shows the setup perfectly. Using the energy from that electron flow, complexes I, 3, and 4 act like little pumps. They're actively shuttling protons, those H+ ions, from the very center of the mitochondrion, called the matrix, into that tiny space between the two membranes. And this process is incredibly powerful. Get this. For every single NADH molecule that drops off its electrons, a grand total of 10 protons get pumped across that membrane, 4 from complex I, 4 from complex 3, and 2 more from complex 4. This builds up a huge amount of potential energy. What we've just created is called an electrochemical potential gradient. It's really 2 gradients for the price of 1. A chemical one, because there's just more protons on one side, and an electrical one, because all those positive protons create a positive charge. The best way to think about it is like water building up behind a giant dam. The protons are desperate to flow back to where they came from, and that built-up pressure is the energy we're about to harness. So how do we turn that dammed-up proton energy into actual ATP? Well, we let the protons flow back, but we force them to go through a very special channel. It's time to meet the hero of our story, an incredible molecular machine called ATP Synthase. I just love this quote from the Nobel laureate Paul Boyer. It really captures the sense of wonder this tiny machine inspires. I mean, ATP synthase isn't just important, it is a true marvel of natural engineering. It's one of the most ancient and conserved proteins on the planet. And this thing isn't just a simple tunnel. It is a true rotary motor. It's got 2 main parts. The FADH part sits right in the membrane, and it spins like a water wheel as protons rush through it. That spinning part is connected by a stalk to the F1 part, which is the actual factory that cranks out the ATP. It is unbelievable nanotechnology. So let's just walk through how this incredible engine works. First, the protons rush through the FADH motor. This physical flow of protons forces that connecting stalk to spin at an incredible speed. As the stalk spins inside the F1 head, it physically bumps into the other parts, changing their shape. And it's this mechanical change that literally forces an ADP and a phosphate molecule together, cranking out our precious ATP. It's a direct conversion of physical rotation into chemical energy.
Just brilliant. Okay, the moment we've all been waiting for. We've seen the whole process, now let's count our winnings. What is the final energy payoff from that single molecule of glucose that we started with way back in glycolysis? Here is the basic exchange rate. Each NADH, because it started at the beginning and pumped more protons, gives us about 2.5 ATP. And each FADH₂, with its slightly later entry point, gets us about 1.5 ATP. See? That small detail from earlier really matters now. So when we add everything up, the little bit of ATP from glycolysis and the TCA cycle, plus the massive haul from all the NADH and FADH₂ we just processed, we get a grand total of about 30 to 32 ATP molecules. Now compare that to the measly 2 we got from glycolysis alone. This is just an incredible energy return on our investment. But hold on, there is one last absolutely critical piece to this puzzle. What happens to those electrons after they've finished their journey? They can't just float away. They have to be handed off to a final acceptor. And that final acceptor is oxygen. This is, quite literally, the reason we breathe. And this is why this whole process matters so much in a life-or-death kind of way. If oxygen isn't there to grab those electrons at the end, the whole chain gets backed up. Electrons have nowhere to go, proton pumping stops, and ATP production just grinds to a halt. And without energy, cells start to die. This is exactly what happens during a heart attack when blood flow and therefore oxygen gets cut off. And that wraps up our journey through cellular respiration. From one little glucose molecule to over 30 ATP, we've seen how this elegant and ancient pathway powers pretty much everything we do. It's the fundamental process of life, and it's happening trillions of times a second inside you right now. If you found this useful, be sure to follow and like BioDojo. Thanks for watching.